Greater Manchester has declared a climate emergency and made a commitment to being carbon neutral by 2038. This project aims to support and deliver on that ambition. Unlocking Clean Energy in Greater Manchester is a project supported by the European Regional Development Fund. It's a collaboration with 5 local authorities and the combined authority in Greater Manchester.
ESC looked at a range of innovative business models for local authorities that were looking to deploy renewable generation assets. This included ground-mounted solar assets, roof-mounted solar assets, and solar carports with integrated EV charge points and battery storage. ESC looked at 5 short-term business models. We looked at power purchasing agreements, private wires, solar and storage licensing arrangements, storage and site optimisation, as well as solar carports. One of the things we found with the UCEGM project is that some stakeholders will use different terminology, which can make it very hard for local authorities to compare quotations for services on a like-for-like basis. There's also a range of different commercial structures that may be offered by third-party organisations, each of which will have their own level of risk and revenue generation potential. We assessed the business models using 3 key concepts from business model design. We looked at desirability, which determines how valuable a business model is to its customer. We looked at feasibility, which looks at how the project can be delivered and how feasible it is to do that. We looked at viability, which determines whether a business model is commercially viable.
We learned a lot of lessons during the modelling. One of the things we observed was that some of the early feasibility studies, they used quite simplistic electricity price assumptions, or were using the current prices, which obviously we were in a period of very high volatility. The approach we took was to look at various different price scenarios and then look at the sensitivity of the business case to those different scenarios, and that would give a better assurance for the commercial viability. Then in terms of the level of self-consumption that we saw for projects, initially a lot of the sites were estimating or assuming that they would consume all of the electricity on site, but in practice we often found the amount that they could consume was maybe 60 to 80% of the generation. This was often due to the mismatch between the demand for electricity during the day versus what was generated, or actually how the buildings were being used at the weekends. But one of the things we chose to do was we undertook a commercial modelling for the local authorities for the different sites that the partners were developing. Or the commercial modelling they were doing didn't necessarily reflect the business models for things like sleeved PPAs. And we also were really keen to develop a tool that local authorities could take forward and use themselves in the future.
At the Catapult, we see local renewable energy generation as a critical part of meeting our net zero goals. We work with local authorities to innovate and support the delivery of smart local energy systems. We hope that the outputs from the Unlocking Clean Energy in Greater Manchester project will support local authorities in meeting the challenge of climate change.